Good evening, everyone. We apologize for being late. We did have some technical difficulties. Thank you for your patience. We have our special guest on tonight, Theresa Hill. She's an author and paranormal investigator. Welcome, Tara. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you. And would you please tell our viewers something about yourself?
Hi, everybody. Well, I'm kind of like a ghost fanatic. I love everything about ghosts. I've always been interested in ghosts, and in fact, that's my specific genre that I love to write. I write both nonfiction and fictional stories about ghosts. So, and I have this blog called The Ghost Post, which is about real ghost stories and hauntings. And I started the blog because, I started the blog for a couple of reasons. One was every article that I read kept saying, when you're a writer, you have to have a blog. And I kept saying, well, I don't know what I want to blog about because I really want to write fictional ghost stories. That's what I want to make a name as. And what ended up happening was I was reading it and I said, well, what am I interested in? I'm interested in ghosts. I looked up blogs about ghosts and I saw that they had, lots of blogs about ghosts, basically about like how to go find them or, different types of hauntings, more of the paranormal investigator type stuff, which is very interesting. I love reading about those things, but I said, that's not what I want to write about. So I ended up writing about, I said, well, you know what, I'm going to start a blog about true ghost stories and hauntings. And basically, I said, but I'm going to make it a little bit different because obviously I have maybe about 20, 30 experiences of my own. But the way I'm going to make it different is I'm going to invite people to tell me their stories, and then I'll write up the version for them and put it on the internet.
That's great.
Sorry, that was a little long. That was a little long-winded. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, not a problem at all. Not a problem. So that's what basically then is your inspiration for writing your own personal experiences. Is that what you mean?
Yes. Well, that and also just in general, I just always loved a good ghost story.
Well, I've got one I can tell you, by golly, happened just this morning.
Sure. Oh, really?
Well, I have the habit of always saying good morning and good night to the friendly spirits here in my home. So this morning I got up, said hello to or good morning to my doggie, and then I said, good morning, friendly spirits. And as soon as I said that, bang, the TV came on.
Oh.
So there you go. That's my story for today.
Oh my goodness! Don't you love when I never understand how they do that. I'm like, what? I try to imagine it. Are you standing near it and poking their finger at it, and they just make it go zit and it turns on? Or I'm curious about that.
I am too, because the control was facing towards the door, and there's nothing there to reflect it, to gear it towards the TV. But bang, on she came, and it was on the channel that I was expecting to see when I got up. So at least we had some interaction this morning, which was kind of nice.
Well, that's good.
So what else can you tell us, Tara? What kind of books, or what books have you written? Would you care to give some promos on them?
Well, unfortunately I don't have any books published yet. That's what I'm trying to do with the blog, is work on building a name so that, when I send queries to agents, I actually get, hopefully a positive result back instead of the normal, sorry, we're not interested right now, kind of thing. So I'm working on building my platform, but I am in the process of editing a novel that I'm hoping I'll either find an agent for this year, or I'm hoping that I'll, be able to find a publishing company to want to take it this year. So I'm working on that. I did have a short story published called Don't Be Afraid. It was published in, it's called the New York, I think it was, hold on, now I can't remember it. It's on Amazon. If you look up New York City Harvest, you can find it. New York City Harvest, and it's about, it's a paranormal anthology. But they published it under Tara Hill instead of Theresa Hill.
Oh, and that's too, right?
Yeah, so, but that was before I knew for sure that I was going to go with Theresa Hill. I was kind of playing with the idea whether or not to go with Tara Hill or Theresa Hill, and then I said, I like Theresa Hill better. Yeah. Everybody used to call me TT growing up anyway.
Oh, well, you better stick with it then. Yeah, I know it's difficult. I know it can be very difficult to find a publisher. They're either the kind that they want you to pay them to publish a book, which as far as I'm concerned is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have to search and search and search all over the place just to try to get someone who will give you a chance to get your name out there. I know it's rough.
Yeah, definitely is.
Sorry you're having that trouble.
Huh?
I say I'm sorry that you're having that trouble. I hope you can get it straightened out soon and get a good publisher who will give you a hand.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I started the book when I was I was like 23, 24 years old. So I think also I wasn't that good the first couple of times. You know, I've rewritten it a lot, but, you know, trying to pay attention to if a query letter every now and then they would give me actual feedback and say, you know, this character is a little weak or the beginning didn't draw me in. So I keep that in mind. I say, well, let me look, you know, after I cry a bit, I say, okay, let me look back at it and see what I can fix.
Yeah, I understand totally, because I know I wrote a book years ago, like it was written over about a 20-year period because it was based on my failures and successes with gardening. And so my brother, Carl, bless his heart, he put it on a CD for me so I could kind of sell it as an ebook type of a thing. But then, for some strange reason, the picture's fouled. I cannot find the original CD. It's disappeared somewhere.
Oh, dear.
The one that Carl did for me, because if I could find that, then I could make a bunch of copies and get it out there. So finally, I just said, oh, to heck with this. Then I just went ahead and published the book chapter by chapter on the gardening channel. So
that's cool.
Page, I should say, in Facebook. Yeah. So now I got to work on another one.
Yeah. It's a constant process,
It is, but I enjoy it. I love writing. I've always loved writing. Like in school, my teacher, Mrs. Bryda, in grade 3, she always said, you know, you should consider taking up writing for a career because you really have a good command of the English language. But try to find a publisher, like you say.
Yeah, and, you know, there's so many options. You know, you could go with, like you said, more of a vanity press. You could go for self-publishing. There's a lot of good self-publishing done. But then, you know, you try to figure out, I mean, with this book, it's about 440 pages on Microsoft Word right now. I'm like, I really don't want to self-publish this.
Yeah, it would be kind of difficult to do it with a number of pages. It would be expensive for you, I would think.
Yeah. And even if it wasn't expensive, it's just a matter of I really want to give it the chance. I've worked so long on it, you know. I mean, I always put myself as much as I can to the stories, and it would really, to me, be a shame if I had to self-publish it eventually. I would much prefer to wait and keep working at building a platform and keep working at trying to find the right person for the book. So in the meantime, I'm writing a lot of short stories just to practice and hone my craft.
Well, best of luck. You get a good publisher soon.
Oh, I hope so.
Work, you know, it can be very disheartening. I understand, for darn sure. But don't give up.
I won't, believe me. I love ghost stories too much.
All right. So what kind of personal experiences have you had? Can you share any of those or no?
Sure, no, of course. I mean, I've had, you know, well, let me give you a bit about my background. My mom is a Wiccan high priestess in New York City. And so I was raised in occult shops and New Age shops. So I was raised around the kind of people that, you know, are open-minded to these kind of experiences. But my mom, the ghost thing was really more me because she liked, you know, the religion and everything, but I liked the aspects of the paranormal and, you know, I used to read books about fairies and mythical creatures and things like that because I was always interested in, I guess, like the unseen world, you know? And I had a few experiences as a kid, but nothing too, I mean, I saw an apparition. I mean, I wrote about it on my blog. It was, I actually saw an apparition in a clock tower of a woman in a clock tower. And I kept saying to my mom, I see this lady and she's waving to me every day. And my mom kept saying to me, there's no lady up there. That's not possible that there's a woman up there. And when we went, and basically, long story short, when she finally took me to investigate, we found out that it had actually been a woman's prison.
Oh, wow.
In the past. So I might have been seeing someone there was a story, a legend about the place that the woman had gotten up to the clock tower and unfortunately jumped. So, I don't know. Huh?
Escape?
I'm sorry?
He was a prisoner and jumped to her death to escape, in other
Yeah.
words?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So where was this clock tower, if you don't mind my asking?
It was in New York City. I believe it was called the Washington. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the name now. It's a library. I
Yeah.
believe it's called the Washington Street. Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone. You know, I hadn't meant to talk about that one. I think
I'm
it's
sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot if you...
No, it's okay. I mean, I printed out a bunch of them. It's just that was the first one, the very first blog that I put, because it's always, you know, the apparition of the woman waving to me was so unforgettable, but I'm always bad with other names. So I'm just bringing up the site. So if I look at the blog post all the way at the bottom, geez, but it was, what was interesting to me was, again, I was seeing her and no one else was, though.
That is amazing.
You know, every time I called my mom, hey mom, the lady's back, she would disappear. And I got, you know, I said, but I know I'm seeing her because she looks at me, you know, and then, let me see, which was it? I'm on it now. I got it on my phone. Wonderful things, these phones. Let me see. Librarian. Come on. Name it. Lay in the Clock Tower. I know it was in the city. I think it was, pretty sure it was the Washington Library. Oh my goodness. You know what? I didn't name it in there either. I apologize. I didn't name it in there either because I guess I wanted to give them privacy. So, but it's I think the Washington Market is where I think it is, the Washington Street Market Library. But yeah, it was it was an incredible experience. But I mean, that was when I was little, so I even thought I might have imagined it even afterwards. But then again, I don't think so, really, because I remember it very well. I'm sorry?
And if you had seen it numerous times, too, it sounds more like you were definitely seeing it.
Yeah, I did see it a couple of times. I have seen I've seen a couple of full-blown apparitions over the years. Like in my college, oh my God, my college was built in the 1800s. So...
some activity there.
Oh, plenty, especially in the older buildings. Like I lived in this building called Marillac, and actually the place was quiet when everyone was there. Even though, you know, the security guards who were there every night would tell stories. They would say, you know, you can hear the piano playing. You might see somebody down the hall when you know all the students are upstairs because it's 4 a.m., you know, or something like that. But one of my favorite ones, this one happened to me. During orientation, the building there was, you know, empty because no one had moved in yet. There was summer orientation, and I was an orientation leader, so I was allowed to move in a little earlier than usual, maybe like a few days. But the building was mostly empty. There were like 3 people, maybe 4 people there. And it's a huge building. So, and Marillac is also the oldest building on campus. Okay. So what happened was, I moved in there, and I'm a little nervous because I got to be honest with you guys. I've always had kind of a fascination with the paranormal, but also I'm a little scared of it. So it's like I'm fascinated by ghosts, but I'm also a little spooked by them.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, my mom said, like, it's like you're a reluctant medium. I'm like, yeah, I guess so. It's like, it's so interesting. Would love to talk to them, but if I see one, I might run away too. So, yeah. So, I'm moving into this dorm, and I'm thinking to myself, this is the oldest dorm on campus. You willingly chose to room here, but my roommate's not moving in for like 5 days, so, you know, whatever, I'm by myself. And I get in, and me and my then boyfriend, we're now married, my husband, were, we went to the kitchen to get some water. And I suddenly heard, we both heard this, Tara, where are you? And I went, like, I felt the sweat pop up all over my neck. I was like, oh my God, who just called me? Did you hear that? He said, yeah, I heard that. I said, where do you think that came from? Because it sounded like a woman's voice. I said, well, it's a woman's voice. Maybe it's my mother. It could be my mother calling me. She's upstairs. You know, maybe I told her to stay in the dorm room. She might get lost. It's such a big place. So I go upstairs, And I tell her, why'd you come to the kitchen and then walk away? And she looked right at me and she said, I never left this room. I said, you never left this room? I said, no. I said, so you mean to tell me someone called my name, sounded like you, or sounded like, you know, an older woman, and it was no one. Okay, so I just thought to myself, oh great, this is going to be interesting if they're already talking to me. And then the very next day, again, let me emphasize, I was by myself now in this dorm. The very next day, I get up and I start going down to shower. And what happened was, I start going down to the shower and I notice someone's walking in front of me. And I think to myself, like, I just woken up and I said to myself, all right, well, this girl's going down slow. Could she go any slower? Can't she hurry up? And she's walking a few steps down in front of me, though. And then she turns the corner, and I see her look up at me as she's going down. And I notice, wait a minute, no one is here with me. So again, who is upstairs with me? And then it hit me, I just saw another darn ghost. So now I get into the bathroom. And I say out loud, because I had read in a book, I think by Hans Holzer, they said if you talk to spirits out loud, they'll hear you. And so I looked right in the bathroom mirror and I said, look, I have to live here. You need to stop popping out of the woodwork every 5 seconds. And thankfully after that, things seemed to settle down once people moved in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. They will interact.
I'm sorry, the last part cut off.
Sorry. It is amazing how they will interact sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think I repeated that mantra every time I stepped out of my dorm. Especially if it was like 3 a.m. and I'd been up working like all night, I'd say, okay, if you're going to manifest, please don't, because I need to, I just need to go wash up for bed and then I'm going to sleep. So just go poof or whatever you guys do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think quite often too, an awful lot of the spirits, just all they seem to want is just some recognition. Hey, I'm here, kind of a thing. And then once you do acknowledge them, they seem to settle down.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, sometimes I think they don't even like to be bothered. I mean, unless they're showing themselves to you, kind of.
Yeah. So what's the latest book you're working on, Tara?
Well, the book I'm working on, it's a ghost story. It's a ghost story that kind of takes place between both the past and the present. So you have the one where it's in the present, and it's these 3 ghosts talking to this young woman, and they're trying to help her about something that happened in the past. So it kind of goes between the past and the present, not to try to give too much of the plot away, of course, but it goes in between the past and the present, and they're trying to help her solve this problem.
Nice.
Yeah.
Because there are certainly helpful ghosts. There's no 2 ways about it.
Yeah, I believe that. And what I like to do with ghosts is I try to show them in the most human way possible, because I really do believe that, they're the souls of people who have lived before. And so, I mean, as long as they were good people, unless they weren't good people, but if they were good people, I think they should be written in that way. So I try to, again, make them look like the most human, except I'll say, like they have a glow to them or something. But I like to depict them as human. And what I really like to do is talk about ghosts and humans interacting with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I find, too, that if you speak to a spirit with some respect, that usually helps an awful lot, instead of taunting them like they do in some of these ridiculous TV shows.
I know what you mean. Like, why are you're going into the old building and you're purposely trying to get a rise out of them? Oh, that's wise.
I know. There's one show in particular. I always rant and rave about it, so I don't want to get too involved on that. But oh, good grief, I dare you to hit me. I dare you to do this or that or so and so. And one of these days, he's going to get a beating of his life.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like, why would you do that? I mean, you wouldn't walk up to a human being and do that. So why would you do that to a soul? That makes no sense. I mean, just because they're no longer inhabiting the same type of body doesn't mean that they don't deserve respect or, you know, they don't deserve to, you know, respect or to be left alone. I mean, if that's what they desire. I've seen stuff like that too, and I always really don't like that. I mean, it's something also my mom raised me with. She taught me about praying to the ancestors, and the ancestral spirits, and so I'm always lighting candles for ancestors, even ones I've never met.
Mm-hmm.
Just so, you know, they have, like I always say, love and light, and I light them a candle. And there's a lot of them I haven't met. I mean, I even believe that you can talk with your ancestors from other lives, personally. Even if you don't have a connection with them by blood now, there's a soul connection. So if they're still around in, you know, I guess like the atmosphere, kind of, I believe you can light candles at least and send them good good energy that way.
Intentions. Yeah, I agree with you. Now, mind you, myself, even though I'm a paranormal investigator, I'm not one that really 100% believes in past lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like myself, living numerous lives and that kind of a thing. But I don't know. I guess stranger things have happened, but I'm open-minded to it. Let's put it that way. I'm not closed-minded about past lives. But yes, I do agree though with you that there are a lot of spirits around who may be related to you in some real distant past and makes themselves known to you. I don't see why that couldn't happen.
Yeah, I think so. And also something, I was actually having this conversation with my mom about it a few weeks, you know, maybe like a week or so ago. And she said, you know, it might even be that, let's just say, you know, if you believe in the theory that we're all connected, you know, spiritually, or like there's this great energy web that we're all connected, maybe that ancestor is even reborn as a human being already. And you're sending out energy, you know, maybe they need help and you don't even know about it because you don't know them, but you light a candle and that energy finds them throughout the universe and something, you know, goes right for them when they need it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Could well be. There's so many theories out there, and it's really kind of hard to pinpoint exactly. So yes, I understand what you're saying and why you're saying it, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's also part of the writer in me. Like we try to come up with different ways of explaining things. So, and I think what's great about the paranormal is being we don't have the answers exactly. There's always room for, like, you know, theories, you know, as long as you know, discuss them respectfully and everything.
Right. I know one night I got a rather interesting sight come in front of my eyes. I was working, that was when I was nursing, and I was working the night shift. I was getting the med pass ready for the morning. And I heard a noise out in the hall. I went out into the hall and I saw this white figure coming up the hall, like a long white gown, female. And she was coming right up towards me, and yet her feet weren't touching the floor. So I knew right then that definitely what I was seeing was a ghost. So she came along the hall so far and then turned, bang, disappeared right into the hall. Into the wall, I should say.
Wow. Yeah. And you ever wonder who she was, or do you think it might have been an angel, or?
I have no idea, to be honest with you, because I went down to the break room and I asked the staff, I said, is there anybody who recently passed on here on the lower floor, female? And they were starting to think, oh, gee, I don't know. I can't really recall. So I have no idea. I mean, I wasn't frightened by seeing her.
Mm.
It was just, well, she's coming up the hall, and she just turned and disappeared into the wall. So.
Oh my goodness. And yeah, stuff like that. It always makes you wonder, like, what did I step into a time portal and just at that moment you happen to be there?
Well, eventually, because what alerted me to go out in the hall was this noise that I heard.
Yeah.
And yet she was coming out, or like coming out of a room kind of a thing. I'm not 100% sure on that. I just saw her coming up the hall.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, as she got closer, she was more visible to me. But I noticed that her feet weren't touching the floor. And so that's what alerted me. But I still never did find out what was the cause of the noise that made me go out there.
Yeah, so strange.
Yeah. So, anything else you'd like to tell us, or?
Well, I don't know if anybody has any questions, or if do your viewers have questions, or do you have any questions? I did prepare some. I did prepare some things to read if you wanted me to, but
Sure.
Okay. Well, let me see which one. No, I guess I told one about my college array, so maybe I'll tell. I don't think I told this one though. Oh yeah, no wait, I did actually. Told it. All right. This one's actually one that happened to my husband. He works in higher education in colleges, and he has this yearly conference that he always goes to in Connecticut. So one time he went and he told me, I actually have a ghost story for you. You should have been there with me. It was pretty, it was a strange thing, a strange experience. So I'll just read you what I have from the blog. I printed it out. Okay. So, okay. We called it Phantom Footsteps in the Chapel. Every fall, George goes to a professional conference that is held in a monastery in Connecticut. Built in the 1950s, the monastery resides in a residential area on a property surrounded by woods. It's a type of place where you expect Bigfoot to come lumbering out of the forest. A labyrinth, statues of Mary, and the Stations of the Cross adorn the grounds. All of his colleagues have reported odd sensations or strange experiences during their stays at the monastery. Although a place of prayer that also rents out its rooms for various retreats, the monastery has a slightly unsettling atmosphere that can become eerie, especially after dark. Most of the rooms in the monastery are small and include twin beds, a desk, and a crucifix adorning the wall. George told me that one coworker had a spooky experience where she couldn't sleep because she felt like someone was in her room watching her. She has refused to stay overnight for the conference ever since. One conference a few years back, George had arrived earlier than everyone else. Like most co-ed dormitories, the men and women's rooms are kept separated from one another. Being the only male that had arrived thus far, George was the sole occupant on his floor at the time. He decided to set up his poster for the upcoming session that evening. On the second floor is an old Masonic-style chapel with wooden chairs lining both sides of the room. The chapel has two entrances that make it possible to use the room as a way to cut across to the other side of the building without having to go the long way around. George carried his poster to the showroom without incident. On the way back, he decided to take the shortcut through the chapel. It was a cloudy, rainy day. The overhead electric lights were off, and the illumination coming from the windows was dim at best. As George was walking, he suddenly became aware of footsteps following him in the chapel. Click-clack, click-clack went the steps. George was wearing sneakers, so he knew it wasn't his shoes making the noise. He paused, and the sound of footsteps continued for a few seconds before fading away. George had felt the presence of someone walking behind him, but turning round saw that no one was there. No one had arrived for the conference yet. After a few moments, George continued on his way, but thankfully didn't hear the phantom footsteps again. George is not one to spook easily, and unlike me, he doesn't purposely seek out ghosts, cemeteries, or haunted places. He doesn't have much interest in the paranormal. Nevertheless, since this occurrence, George only uses the chapel as a shortcut when he is with a group of people. And since then, none of his colleagues like to stay in rooms near the chapel either. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I wonder what.
Yeah, I mean, he said it wasn't malevolent or anything. I mean, it's a monastery, but he said it was definitely a creepy feeling of being followed, and then hearing those footsteps, and they sort of just disappeared. Without him seeing anybody, was definitely an odd experience.
Oh, what?
Yeah. And, again, it's like it's such an old building, so it's possible that there was a ghost priest hanging out.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. Alrighty. So is there anything else you would like to add before we close, or do you want to give a shout out to anyone? Or?
No shout outs. I mean, if you, well, actually, uh, yeah, there's actually one thing I'd like to say. So if anyone wants to send me and to contact me with a ghost story that they would like to share for the blog, the Ghost Post, that's what my blog is called, they can send an email to me at uh, theghostpostreporter@gmail.com. It's all one word. Or if they don't want to do that, then they can also just they can send me a message via Facebook. I'm on Facebook as Tara Theresa Hill Author, or on Twitter. I also have Tara Theresa Hill at Tara Theresa Hill for Twitter.
Great. All right. So thank you so much for coming on the show tonight, Tara. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, oh, not a problem at all. Enjoyed having you. Must do that again if you're willing.
Oh, sure. I'd love to. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. So you have a good evening. I'm sorry we had some technical difficulties there before we could get started, but those things happen. So what the heck? Got to roll with the punches, I guess.
Yeah, I'm glad I got it fixed. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I kept saying install, and it's like crash. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm looking at the computer like, why?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. You always get that feeling. Something or someone out there doesn't want me to come on the show tonight, you know?
Yeah. I said, work with me, spirits. Work with me.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so very much for coming on, Tara, and I do appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed the show and our guest tonight. Our featured guest was Theresa Hill, who is an author and paranormal investigator. And if you didn't manage to watch this show live, it will be on YouTube. Give it a like if you will. I'd appreciate it. And send Tara some of your stories. And thank you so much for joining. In the meantime, you have a great night, everyone. Bye, Tara.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.